I'm just realizing how stupid my notes are. It says, love the model. What kind of spider?
It's a giant spider, and he's like, "Oh, there's this little guy. What are you doing in my little church?"
Right, not like, oh no, he didn't.
This is ghost
Oh.
scaring screams.
Oh, that was a ghoulish noise.
Oh.
Wait, let me do my Gina Davis. Ooh.
That's good.
Thank you.
Now say, "I love that little girl.
I love that little girl.
She's just a little girl."
All right, enough.
She reminds me of Steve Martin and Father of the Bride talking about his daughter. It's Gina
His
Davis to
24-year-old
Lydia
daughter.
Dietz, yeah. My little girl.
Okay.
All right. Hey, load-bearing beams. I'm sorry, ghost scaring screams here.
Oh,
My name's
wow.
Matt Stokes,
And I'm Lacey Roth.
and we are doing our show where the two of us who married each other talk about a movie that one of us likes a lot and the other is not so sure. But we're doing, Beetlejuice today. And Lacey, this is a movie we've done on our show before.
Full disclosure, yes, it was one of our earlier episodes.
Now, we had a sort of vague plan to, as our special 100th episode, we were going to revisit the first two movies we covered, Star Wars and Dirty Dancing. That was our inaugural episode.
Yes.
And you said, that's a great plan, but how about instead for our 89th episode, we'll just do Beetlejuice, because I want to.
I had this shirt and this mug, and then I thought, we have to now.
God, when you've got juice, better make lemonade.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing. So 2017, we did an episode of our podcast on Beetlejuice / the films of Tim Burton, because it turned into us just kind of complaining and trying to unpack our feelings for Tim Burton. And you went back and listened to that episode, didn't you?
Yeah, and it was good. I was expecting our older ones to be complete shit, and they're. I haven't come across any that are. I'm embarrassed. I'm not embarrassed of any of them so far.
It's got to be terrible. I'm just.
No. We've always been good at just talking, just having a chat.
I remember us doing pop psychoanalysis of
When
Tim
did
Burton.
we stop doing any?
We don't
of
do that.
I do pop psycho babble on everyone. It's
remember
unintentional.
being bad for Tim Burton. It was I think what his problem is his dad didn't love him enough. And then
No, okay. Why are you talking about stuff you remember when I'm the one that just listened to it and you didn't?
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, no, we don't do that.
I'm mansplaining your memories to you.
Memory splaining. Wait, those are tits. No, I mean, we definitely get into childhood stuff and the feeling of how he's so good at making a world feel small and feel trapped, feel safe and feel trapped, or like a fake sense of safety. And I'm sure we talked about what we think that means about his childhood, but I think we were friendly to him. I think we both feel like once he got a hold of Johnny Depp, he just got a little too up his own ass, and then up Johnny's, and then up his wife's ass.
Well, we've both grown a lot
great.
as people in the 6 years since, and my feelings on the man, Tim Burton, have definitely changed, grown a lot since then. And that was another reason I felt like I would have been too mean or just too dismissive, and now all I want from movies is people like Tim Burton.
To just care.
Who care, who are distinctive, who have a voice.
Very much so. And who, the biggest tell is that the actors and the rest of the staff, if you're even better at your job, like working with you. I mean, it doesn't have to be, because Stanley Kubrick is still fun to watch, even if he's a beast to work with. But that adds something for me.
Oh, not just that he's using the same set of players, but that they all speak very highly of him. That's what you're saying?
I don't need him to use the same set, and even it speaks more volumes if there's a variety. I just like that it looks like people have fun on his sets.
They always say that. I have a quote from Glenn Shaddix.
Who's Glenn Shaddix?
Otho Shaddix.
Oh, that's not how I pronounce his.
Shaddix. But I remember Michael Keaton saying, this is such a depressing quote. I think it was when Birdman was coming out. He was just doing a million interviews, and every interview would probably ask him like, "You ever going to play Batman again, Michael Keaton?" And he said, the only reason I would do it, I would happily play Batman again if Tim Burton directed me.
Why is that? I think that's lovely.
Yeah, except that he played Batman again this year, not directed by Tim Burton.
Oh, okay.
In The Flash, and it was depressing, and he didn't give a shit, and it was, I mean, he's great. He's always great. But it had nothing to do with the character he originally played, nothing to do with what made him such a good choice to play Batman, what's so interesting about his Batman.
Why break that rule then? Why do it?
I think that he said that, you know, it was only 9 years ago, but something has changed. Now everybody just plays their old stuff again. There's no shame in it, and it's like, fucking, they'll have an AI do it for you if you don't participate.
I'm pretty sure that's illegal, but yeah, but we even talked about a movie where using someone's likeness because they decided not to be in a movie is illegal. What movie was that? Back to the Future, where the dad wouldn't do it again.
Mm-hmm.
The dad.
There is a rule from that movie.
From that movie, right, where they worked around like using different angles and a look-alike and pretended he was in the movie. So see.
No, I know I'm wrong. They can't actually do it without your permission, or if you're dead, as happened with Christopher Reeve in The Flash. Your descendants will just give permission for your likeness to be used, and like Mark Hamill in the Star Wars streaming series, they just have a digital puppet version of him. Because why? You know, you have the existing actor, but no, we don't need him. But my point is,
crazy.
It just sucks that Keaton once said, no, the only reason to do Batman again is if Tim Burton was making it.
And there's such a standard change and a shift in how anything gets made or what the thought is to do it, and that shift is very depressing. Yeah. Now it's just like going to your 35th high school reunion. Like, it's not even a special number. It's just every 5 years you got to do it again.
We're just checking in. It's
still in real estate.
Ends in 5, and he will play Batman again in 5 years, and then probably play him again in an animated thing. And nothing is special anymore.
And I read a thing that to this day, this is still his favorite movie to have ever done. Michael Keaton, his favorite role is Beetlejuice. And he's only in it for 14 minutes, but I'm sure he filmed a lot longer than that.
And it seems like they just let him go, just do whatever, and it was probably a lot of fun for
every
him.
Character, actually. There's a ton of improv from everyone.
But specifically, go as big as you want. Go as big as you want. And he can be very big.
He was very big.
Actor.
The stuffed shirt's weird.
Okay. You want to tell me, kind of already, tell me about your history. When did you see Beetlejuice first? What was your relationship with it growing up?
I'm sure I saw it on HBO. I don't know if they would have played the F word on a TV broadcast of it, that like cable. I just remember this was a movie I watched a lot with my dad because it was one of the non-Elvis, non-Western movies that was dad approved. He loved Michael Keaton. And so the Batman movies and this one would have been something like if I were going to the summer, going to dad's house for a couple of awkward weeks, this would knock out a couple hours. Yeah. I don't know. There are so many characters to like in it. I have no shortage for people to watch and root for.
What was your assessment of it when we did it originally 6 years ago?
I remember being slightly embarrassed. I remember I thought for sure I was about to show you like the funniest movie ever. I remember it being very funny. And not that there aren't funny parts, there are, but because it was the first time that I'd watched it in years and the first time you saw it at all, there was more like embarrassment. But this time around, I knew you had more affection for Tim Burton, and you'd already seen this movie. So like you could kind of digest.
A lot of the original premise of our show was embarrassing ourselves with our spouse.
Right.
Even for things that we thought were great, like Beetlejuice or like, the original Star Wars. And
somewhere along the line, I think we realized it's more interesting when we like it. So we kind of tried.
We're not forcing it or anything, but
I used to sit down and with my notepad and like, oh yeah, fuck up there.
Oh yeah,
oh,
me
you
too.
Just did something there. Oh, you really stepped in it.
That's what I did with Dirty Dancing.
Yes, I know you did. You did it dirty. But this time I watched it and just wanted to like embrace and watched it with our kid and just wanted to, what did I love about it? And I really did enjoy it this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my history is that I did not grow up with Beetlejuice. It wasn't part of my life. I was, peripherally aware of the animated series. I probably knew of that before I probably wasn't I was a teenager probably when I learned that was based on a live action movie.
I didn't even know there was an animated series.
Wow.
I mean, like, I'm sure I did, but you just said it and I went, what?
Yeah,
So-
it was like 89, although you would have been fun. No, you would have been prime age for this, I guess.
I didn't have a lot of cartoons in my life. Not a lot of Saturday morning action.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
That's a shame.
Hmm.
Didn't grow up with this, watched it for the show as at 30 years old, and I didn't hate it. I appreciated a lot of it, but I also found a lot of it annoying and confusing.
You kept saying it was confusing, and I kept saying, go ahead, sorry.
Annoying and confusing. I didn't like Michael Keaton, and I kept thinking this last time. He does not belong in this movie. Like this world, he's like by design, he's a malevolent, destabilizing force. But it shouldn't feel like that to me as I'm watching the movie, feeling like suddenly I feel like I'm watching a different movie and it's not jiving with the rest of what I've been watching.
And I think I agreed with you that last time, and I don't think I agree with you this time.
Mm-hmm.
I think I made a point to look at all the different kinds of characters from the afterlife that can exist. I mean, all the way down to the sandworm. Like, why does that exist? And why is that just seemingly something always out there? But what I took notice, I was trying to take more notice of the rules and what anyone said what the afterlife was like. And I for the first time, realized they made it very clear the afterlife is different for everyone. You don't even know that you're interacting with other dead people who really existed. This is just exactly what the Maidlands needed for their afterlife.
Does that mean Beetlejuice himself
yeah.
isn't a part of other people's afterlife lives?
It can mean that.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of a rubber. It's whatever. I would like to spend a little bit more time in our when they go into the wall. I'd like a little more time in there. Into all the little halls and different rooms and what's in there.
I love that stuff. And I wish I had seen this as a kid, because I would have really I would have just grabbed onto this.
This guy?
Not,
Male.
I mean, the characters, yes, but really the setting, the weird hallway.
Yeah.
When you're a kid and you watch like Willy Wonka or the Wizard of Oz or Alice in Wonderland, and you get stuck on geography and settings. And I just wish, and I liked weird, trippy stuff. I wish I'd grown up with it.
It is the first time, and I can't believe this. It seems like so important. The first time I noticed that Otho makes the joke at the dinner table that if you kill yourself, you go to the afterlife as a civil servant. And it's like, oh, okay, that's why everyone who works back in the behind part of the DMV waiting room is a suicide death. It made even what is
Juno?
Juno. Oh, I love that name. Even Juno, the caseworker. She has a slit throat. I don't know who slits their own throat that's pretty fucking
gnarly.
That's gnarly, man. But anyway, yeah. Could you tell, the receptionist who slit her own wrist, could you tell if her sash said miscongeniality? I'll just bet it did.
You said it did.
I asked if it did. I was like, she won. Why did she? But not that that's... Anyway.
Yeah, if you win, you're never unhappy again.
Right.
Usually.
That's
especially
how
if it's
goes.
A beauty contest.
But she killed herself that day is how I take the reason why she's
that's
wearing it.
That's why she's still wearing it?
Yeah.
That's a
statement.
That's dark shit, man. Before we get into it, we always on this show, before we watch the movie, we write down our pre-movie predictions. How are we going to feel about this movie once it's over?
I will almost all of it, but will be disappointed at how little I like the Michael Keaton parts. I was wrong again.
You will like almost all of it.
Yes. And I was just reading exactly what I wrote. I was tainted by my review, of the podcast. I listened to the 2017 podcast, and that was what I thought then. And I just listened to that, and then watched the movie. And I am pleasantly surprised and to report I did like his parts. They're still funny.
Him, you're saying?
I let myself like all the things I already liked before you came into my fucking life. God, Matt. Fucking novel. A prelogue. A preamble.
Here's what I said.
Oh, here it comes.
Beetlejuice prediction. When I did my big Tim Burton deep dive a few years ago, I skipped Beetlejuice. I have only ever seen it the one time, when we covered it on the show in 2017. In 2017, I was a real piece of shit. Now I am older, smarter, a man of exemplary opinions. So I'm very curious to see how this movie plays for me now. I'm sure I'll have more appreciation for the practical effects and the weirdness, the Tim Burton-iness. I like Tim Burton now, and I wish he were still inspired and driven to make the kinds of movies he made up through the mid-2000s. But I also remember what I didn't like about Beetlejuice when we last watched it. The spontaneous singing, the dancing football players, LOL so random. And most importantly, Michael Keaton himself. He annoyed me so much last time. Will I find him funny this time? I'm anxious to find out.
Oh, God, I can never let you read yourself again. You give it way too much gravitas. You were way
I was trying
up
to make
your
it
butthole.
sound like I was up my butthole.
Okay,
I'm
that's perfect.
self-aware. No?
No, it just seemed up your butthole.
I'm just an asshole?
Up one.
Yeah, I liked him more. He's still probably my least favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, I don't think you're supposed to get big doses of him. And for the first time I realized, because I thought, well, why do they need a villain? I always thought of the Dietzes as the villains, everyone except for Lydia. And then, of course, Ortho and anyone else who visits the house who just wants it for its value. And then I realized, no, it's just wholesome as hell. Like, it was never supposed to... It was supposed to be about chosen family and expanding your family, but also about reconnecting with the one that you have. So they couldn't keep the parents as the villain. They need a villain. Don't you think? Or is death villain enough?
You need some sort of force to go
Antagonist.
against.
Mm-hmm.
And when he does the marriage thing at the end, I'm still a little jarred by it. Like, where is this coming from? Why does he want to do this? What does any of this mean? It seems like we just need something with stakes now for something to happen in the movie.
He was supposed to murder the Maidlands and rape Lydia Dietz.
When you say supposed to, what do you mean?
That was the original script. And Tim Burton was like, no, thank you.
Well, the script, I have a bunch of stuff about that in my history. Went through many, many rewrites. I never saw that version. I never saw that was something that happened. I definitely saw that they made him much more of an evil character, whereas in the final film, he's just a sort of trickster god sort of figure.
A little Loki. Loco Loki.
When this movie, I've never lived in a world without Beetlejuice. It's so iconic. Cartoons and theme parks and stage musicals that are horning people up all over the land. And
certain kind of person.
It feels inevitable. Of course this was going to happen, but it didn't have to. It took a lot of, it's just one of those great creative stories, stories of people collaborating together to make something totally weird. And I especially think about if we move to a place where AI is writing stuff, you would never get a Beetlejuice. Or hey, let's say AI isn't generating the stuff, but we're sort of feeding something into an algorithm of, oh, great AI, should I greenlight this movie about the weird demon beetle man? And it would say, no, of course not. And that's all. That's all I wanted to point out. It's also great. I mean, you're seeing all these people sort of at the beginning of their careers.
Yeah.
And people who will work a lot together or, who or sort of define their star personas like Tim Burton, like Danny Elfman and Michael Keaton and Winona Ryder. And it's just very exciting to see that.
Danny Elfman
did the music.
Okay. And I love the score.
Okay. So, but where did Beetlejuice come from?
Yes, please tell me.
Okay. Well, so there's basically 3 credited writers of Beetlejuice. We have Michael McDowell and Larry Wilson are credited with story by. Michael McDowell and Warren Scarron wrote the actual screenplay. In the stage musical and in the upcoming Beetlejuice 2, it says based on Beetlejuice created by Michael McDowell and Larry Wilson. Really seems like Michael McDowell is the guy that all of this starts with.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say, first of all, Michael McDowell very sadly died of AIDS in 1999. He was only 49 years old. He was an extremely prolific writer of pulp horror novels. In the 80s, Stephen King said he's the finest writer of paperback originals in America today.
Wow.
And Stephen King later worked with McDowell. McDowell wrote the screenplay for Thinner, the adaptation of Stephen King's novel Thinner.
That ending up being kind of a a sad, ironic movie for him.
Oh, you know, I've never seen it or read it.
No, I mean, that's what happens when you have AIDS.
Oh, I got you.
You grow thinner.
God. Michael McDowell, he was fascinated with death. He was a collector of death memorabilia. This included things like the plaques from infant coffins, presumably like very old. I hope
infants are universally young. Yeah.
That's true.
Okay.
I mean, I hope he wasn't like.
I got it. Right. Just taking them. Got it.
I'll take that. He got a PhD. And his thesis was called Changing American Attitudes Towards Death, 1825 to 1865. One thing he wrote about was basically the American attitude and contrasted with other cultures, and specifically he cited Japanese and Chinese cultures. And he said, quote, not for anything specific, but just for their way of treating the supernatural in a straightforward fashion, in a way that Americans never quite get, as a part of life, end quote.
Like running alongside parallel existences with those that have died? That they're all around and that's not a big deal.
Yeah, that it's not a big deal, that this is a thing that's going to happen to all of us. It informs everything, every part of our lives. And he was just fascinated with the way that people don't talk about it, don't think about it, don't like to ask questions about it. So he wrote tons of just cranked out novels, and he got contacted by George A. Romero's company. George A. Romero is the director of Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead, our previous episode. He was developing a TV show, an anthology horror series, and they called Michael McDowell and they're like, hey, do you want to come work on our show? And he's like, I sure do. And then they realized they had contacted the wrong Michael McDowell and they were like, oh, sorry. And they were embarrassed, but they're like, you don't write horror, do you? And he's like, I do. It just so happens I do. And so he sent them his work and they hired him. Yeah. He wrote 11 episodes of that show. He also worked on a revival of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, including an episode that was directed by Tim Burton. So he wanted to move over to movies, to writing movie scripts. Ghostbusters and Poltergeist were big movies from the time. And he saw those and thought, what if you had good ghosts?
Yes.
Okay. So he meets a guy named Larry Wilson, who is interesting sort of producer / executive / writer who's kind of moving between the world of being an executive, producing his own stuff and writing his own stuff. But he had a company called Pecos Productions, which optioned some of McDowell's books. They started to get to know each other and they talk about McDowell's idea for Beetlejuice. They're like, there's something there. So they work on it together. They write a script together. We mentioned that Beetlejuice himself is much more of a villain in the movie. The Maitlands died a much more horrific death.
I'd heard that.
And the Dietzes had 2 daughters.
No, thank you.
No.
Ugh, that would have been horrible. Because then they would have been playing off each other and it just was so much more interesting. Good thing. I hope.
No, yeah, that character can't work with this. I mean, the sibling character can only be an annoying sibling in that case.
Exactly.
A real person.
They would have been just playing off of each other too much. It couldn't have been about just the interior life of a gothic person who's sensitive and weird, but not in the ways you think a gothic person is. I had heard that this movie did a lot for the goth culture and just humanizing it, normalizing it. Like, these aren't people obsessed with like who are mean and like, I don't know what people thought of gothic people, but not that they were just sensitive and artsy.
And love theatricality and love Christmas.
Especially The Nightmare Before It.
Yeah. Hey, you were a goth. Were you inspired by Beetlejuice?
Yeah.
Were you Lydia
inspired
Dietz?
by Winona Ryder, not by Beetlejuice. I found her even in the Heathers. Just her whole thing. I just loved her whole fucking thing.
You know, I've known you for 12 years now. It's been the best 12 years of my life.
Oh.
We have a great relationship. We're
true.
Best friends.
What is
We have
happening?
a business together. We host a podcast together.
Are you about to propose?
2 wonderful children. Will you be my Sally to my Jack?
Oh, gross.
And in this entire time, you've always called the movie Heathers the Heathers.
Yeah.
And it's just Heathers.
Did I just do it again?
Yeah.
I listened to the Jawbreaker episode where you correct me.
So I did this.
Oh, fuck yeah. There's nothing new under the Matt's sun.
Hey, nothing new under the lazy sun.
God.
At least you forget. You're like Dory, and I get to keep using material
because I
on
explore
you. Because you explore.
Because I'm a fish.
Yeah, because you explore, you asshole.
You fucking inquisitive cunt. R rating.
All right, what are we saying?
I don't know. Okay, I'm sorry. That's why all that preamble. You thought this was like the moment you unveil that I say Heather's wrong?
Yeah. I'm dropping some
I
truth
listened
on
to
you
it
now.
this morning. That is awesome. You idiot. Go on. I love you.
I love you. We've known each other for 12 years.
What
we
are
have
we
a
doing?
great partnership. We were okay. Basically, they sell their script to the Geffen Company, to David Geffen's company, and they spend a year rewriting the script. And the executives there keep saying they don't like it. They want them to rewrite it. Larry Wilson said in a 2014 interview, this was hell. They were miserable. And it's interesting because he was simultaneously working as an executive, like giving shitty little writers notes, and now he's getting them. Okay.
Right.
But at this point, enter Tim Burton. Now, who is Tim Burton?
Yes, please.
We all know Tim Burton, but let's talk about him anyway. Okay, he was 28 years old when he was filming Beetlejuice. So, very young man. Born in 1958 in Burbank, California. Burbank is the inspiration for the town in Edward Scissorhands, just suburban nothingness.
Got it.
And he made homemade stop motion animated films.
Which is a tedious chore. So meticulous person right
yes.
there.
Oh yeah. Good point. Obsessive, very, very ingesting sort of all of this pop culture, loved to watch TV. And he's like kind of put it like, didn't see a difference between Citizen Kane, which is something he references all the time, and like shitty local commercials or whatever. And it's like, that's sort of the high and the low art as meshing together is sort of something that recurs in all of his movies.
For sure.
Okay. He attended Cal Arts, which was, had developed an animation program sponsored by Disney that was like designed to be, our future animators are going to train here. We're going to have
a pipeline.
Exactly. We're going to have our animators teach here, and then we're going to get these guys come work for us. So this inaugural class in 1975 that Tim Burton was a part of also included John Lasseter, Brad Bird, John Musker, Henry Selick, Jerry Reese. So you have like, the basically some of the most powerful people in animation and just movies in general over the next 30 years in this class with him.
Only heated him out. Well, sorry, you can't just put photos on the page. I'm sorry. Matt is going through his notes. It is a PowerPoint, and he abruptly changes to new slides.
But you see the slides coming up. You even told me, don't put it in presenter mode. That way I can see what's coming up next. But every time you're like, oh!
No, this one picture of Tim Burton is just something.
Hello, all right. I'm Tim Burton.
He looks like a sweetheart, though. He looks like a Kramer goth.
Yeah, everyone speaks highly of him. They like working with him. When he talks about read interviews with him or listen to his commentaries, he'll always say like, I don't know why I'm successful. I don't know what I do well. I don't know why people like me.
Aww.
Something just captured something. Okay. So
just that right there. You got me. Just the way he said it.
So he was an apprentice for Disney's animation division. He worked on movies like The Fox and the Hound, Tron, and The Black Cauldron. And he was very unhappy doing all of it. This was like,
the Black Cauldron wasn't black enough.
That was his note. Like, shut up, Tim. Yeah, this was like the absolute low point for Disney animation. There was the exodus of animators led by Don Bluth. The division wasn't being given the budgets it needed. It was years away from sort of its rebirth with Little Mermaid and the Disney Renaissance. Okay, so he directed a 6-minute stop motion film called Vincent, and then a 30-minute short film called Frankenweenie, both of them for Disney. And once he delivered Frankenweenie to Disney, they hated it and fired him.
Oh God! Go out on a limb and trim it with your scissor hands. Oof.
This, experience of having to work within the corporate machine as this weirdo goth man, with his little spirally people. You can see the avatars of him in every single one of his movies, like Lydia.
Right.
But then a few years later, once he's the biggest name in Hollywood, they put out Frankenweenie on VHS, and it's a big hit.
Yeah, I've seen it. Oh, I've seen it.
But Paul Rubens sees Frankenweenie, and he said 1 minute into it, he knew Tim Burton was the right guy to hire to direct the movie adaptation of Pee Wee Herman.
Yes, wow.
So they make Pee-wee's Big Adventure. It's a big hit. The studio who does Pee-wee, Warner Brothers, also has a deal with Geffen. That's how Burton gets hooked up with Geffen and with the writers of Beetlejuice. And Burton sees the script and says like, I could have written this myself. He loves it.
Wow. I mean, that's brilliant. And it shows what a visionary Paul Rubin is. And we would have Rubens, and he would have had to have been, because they both have the sensibility of taking something just seen as innocent, seen as this one-dimensional thing. Oh, that's a nice boy. That's a nice girl. That's a nice neighborhood. And peeling back the layers and showing you the grime, or just the meshing of like, yeah, this looks innocent, this looks right, but like there's all this underneath
this darkness, and it can even be the same person, like Pee-wee, who can switch from.
Yes, that's what I mean,
yeah.
and or that it's a great cover up for things, but it's also a horrible inability for the people who don't know how to assimilate to not know how to camouflage. For everything to be so same. It's particularly cruel to people who have no idea how to do what special things normal people are managing to do, instinctively know how to do.
But it's such work to have to fit in, such work to have to appear
yes
like you're normal.
Yes, but you have the faculties to do it. I do too, and I would choose not to. But someone like our son or anyone on the spectrum, where just a simple conversation looks like witchcraft. I mean, just that everyone instinctively knows the cues, and to one extent or another, people on the spectrum are lacking that because of their brain being bombarded with every other thing.
There's reporting that Tim Burton is on the spectrum, but
I wasn't saying it. I know you didn't want to say it unless it was true, but I can see in his meticulousness and his attention for detail and his need to keep his world small, and the way that a child knows everything about their house. He knows everything about, and he keeps it small so that he can know everything in model form.
And I think that's why his movies probably play so well for kids, especially when you're just absorbing everything about movies that you're watching.
You just have to learn that world. That's it.
And in a way that I just can't as an adult, that I could as a kid, and I'll just things sweep over me and then they're gone. Yeah, McDowell and Wilson, originators of the script. Once Burton comes aboard, they said everything turns around. It's great now. They're no longer miserable. This man named Warren Scarron is also brought aboard to help with the script. He's like a script. Name. He's a script doctor. He worked on movies like Top Gun. Basically, a script already exists. You come in, punch it up, make it funnier, make it more movie-ish.
I could see that guy being a nightmare.
But he had similar fascination with death. And so they vibed with him right away, and he went on to co-write Batman for Tim Burton. He combined the two Deeds children into one. He changed the ending from one where Lydia dies and then goes and spends the afterlife with the Maitlands to her being alive and choosing to spend it, which is like so lovely.
I love it.
Yeah.
And her parents are there and they are fulfilled in ways that they didn't.
Yeah. It's such a, like, ultimately she ends up in the same place, but it means so much more that she's living.
Well, and they say about ghosts that they exist because of unfinished business. And of course it's alluded to that the Maitlands weren't able to have children, and that on this staycation they were going to try again. And she even gets wallpaper that you can assume is for a nursery as their gift.
Okay.
And then what do you know? This little girl walks into her life.
Of course.
Yes.
Okay.
So that the reason why the afterlife for the Maitlands is this home is because they were always buying it. They bought the size of the house that they wanted to fill with children.
I certainly, the
you
realtor
knew that, but you didn't know that.
Yeah, because the realtor says, I just think someone with a family should live here, and then the score swells up, and Gene Davis looks down and
I didn't mean
apologizes, and then I know in the car it says maybe we can try again.
And that's like her sister-in-law or something. I know it's a family member. Just they don't really punctuate that, but Jane is a family member, so she would know something personal like that.
Okay, so yeah, there's sort of there's more going on there than I picked up on.
Shock.
Okay. Well, all right, but who's gonna play Beetlejuice? Enter Michael Douglas. Except under SAG, he's registered as Michael Keaton because there's already a Michael Douglas. Yeah, so Michael Keaton was 35 when they filmed this movie. He started as a
35.
Yeah.
How young of a guy was he when he started acting?
He started acting in the late 70s. I mean,
okay.
He was a stand-up comic and a stand-up comedian in Pittsburgh.
I believe it.
Before he moved to Hollywood, and then
he's got stand-up comic vibes.
He does.
In the best way possible.
So Night Shift is sort of his breakout role, and then he had Mr. Mom, which was a big hit, made him a star, basically.
Loved it.
For the mid-'80s, he's kind of pigeonholed in sort of forgettable comedies, and his career was on a bit of a downswing when
I did like Johnny Dangerously, though.
Beetlejuice came out. I've heard of these. I guess I've heard of that movie, but yeah, I don't know what any of these are. The Gung Ho, The Squeeze, The Dream Team.
I don't know of any of those. Just Johnny Dangerously, Night Shift, and Mr. Mom.
He so he's on the downswing. They can get him for value. But Tim Burton's idea was he wanted Sammy Davis Jr. to play Beetlejuice.
Well, you know what? That makes sense because if you look at the other lineup, there's no reason to have Dick Cavett and who else? Robert Goulet as these random
That's true.
boss parts. I mean, he's bringing in every campy cheese thing he can.
Just showbiz
everything's just
people.
like, yeah, baby.
Showbiz lifers.
Because that's the most fish out of water. And like I had heard it explained that Michael Keaton in the world after you've been dead for a long time, he is what the over preoccupied with status, the way that the parents are over preoccupied with the newest things, modern stuff, being artsy, and you know, having money and social capital and all that. That is what Beetlejuice is in the afterworld, and he got punished for it. And so he's
who punishes him?
Juno, his caseworker. Obviously. No, I think actually he works for Juno. I don't know what punished him, but you know, you can get punished in the afterworld, but I guess he tried to seek too much status in the afterlife.
This is my frustration still with this movie is it's throwing so much at you and I just get to a point where like, I can't track this. I'm not going to try.
I mean, this is after 100 watchings and after reading stuff, watching some YouTube videos, but, yeah, it is meant to be chaos. That's why they keep repeating that this thing reads like stereo instructions. The whole movie is that they didn't even. It's just supposed to be a contained ball of chaos.
No, I know, and I made this. We were talking about it last night after the movie ended, and we're talking about it with our kid, and I make this complaint, and you both say that's the point, and like I know it's the point, but it takes away my enjoyment. Because I don't know what the stakes are to any of this, and I don't know what the rules are, and I don't know what the cause and effects of these things are. And, you know, Beetlejuice comes into the movie and suddenly the camera gets really shaky. It's literally like wobbling around.
I didn't notice that.
He's totally throwing everything off.
Okay.
And that is the experience of watching it, but it's not that enjoyable.
Okay.
Yeah. David Geffen said, we're not doing Sammy Davis Jr., you fucking idiot. You get out of my office, you freak.
Because then it would only be about that. It's too big of a get. Stop it. Be still my heart. You're showing me a picture of Winona Ryder as a fucking child. And can we please pull up the picture of me from the same fucking year? Oh my God.
Years old while they filmed
Lucas.
This movie.
Oh.
You know, I figured you would know Lucas.
Oh.
That was the movie that Tim Burton saw and why he wanted to hire her. But here were some other people who auditioned for this role for Lydia: Sarah Jessica Parker, Brooke Shields, Lori Loughlin, Diane Lane, Molly Ringwald, Juliette Lewis, Jennifer Connelly. And the runner-up was Alyssa Milano.
Excuse me, all-star cast. Those are all good possibilities. I'm so glad it was Winona Ryder.
Play this. They wanted to be in this weirdo movie.
Because when do you ever get to just be different? Mm-hmm. And they want you to do it. And they're all theater kids at heart. You know, they all are different. You can play the hot one, but you don't come up and be an actress.
Unless you secretly are this.
No, not even a secret. I mean, you come up through the ranks. You do all things. Being in theater does not make you cool.
She would later work with Tim Burton on Edward Scissorhands and then the 2012 remake of Frankenweenie. Oh, and I forgot to say Michael Keaton also was Batman. He went on to be in Batman Returns, and then 2019 he reunited with Tim Burton for Dumbo. The only good thing about Dumbo. Now let's also just mention Danny Elfman, who did the music. He was the lead singer of Oingo Boingo, and they had songs like Dead Man's Party and Weird Science. And Tim Burton and Paul Rubens were big fans of Oingo Boingo. And they got in touch with him, asked him if he would be interested in making the music and scoring their film, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. He was very nervous about this because he'd never worked in film before and also had no formal training. But he did a great job. And what Danny Elfman, I still like Danny Elfman today, but especially back then, what he could do is make scores that sounded like the movie and specifically like the characters.
Okay.
Like you hear the Batman theme and you're like, that's Batman. That is exactly how Batman feels.
Well, shit, I'm sounding like Jaws, but that sound you hear as soon as you start sweeping across the model of Beetlejuice world, I can't do it, but it's the Beetlejuice sound.
It's the most important, maybe the most important element tying all of this together.
Yes.
It sets the tone. It makes you feel like what kind of movie you're in.
I'm in the Beetlejuice world right now.
Yep.
Like there's no denying it. Yep. Same with Jaws. Same with My Heart Will Go On. You can't deny that is what that song does for Titanic.
I don't deny that it puts you in Titanic. I can hear the recorders. I can feel myself playing Hot Cross Buns on a recorder in 4th grade. So Danny Elfman, Tim Burton's longest collaborator, basically did the music for every one of his movies except for 3, including Ed Wood, which came right after they had a falling out after Nightmare Before Christmas.
What was the falling out based on?
I think, don't quote me on this.
Oh, God.
I didn't look up the reason. I think I've heard that it was because Danny Elfman did the singing voice for Jack Skellington, and I think recorded the speaking voice, and then he was re-recorded by Chris Sarandon. I don't know. This is like why did Blink-182 break up the first time? I bet it was because of Boxcar Racer.
Wow.
Which was Tom DeLonge's side project that Travis Barker was the drummer for. Now that's not reported anywhere, but of course, this happens and a few years later they break up. It had to play a role. This movie, Beetlejuice, it was shot mostly at Culver City Studios. Early 1987, but then they shot for 10 days on location in East Corinth, Vermont.
Yeah.
The movie is set in Connecticut, though. $13 million budget. That's like average for a comedy, but low for a movie with so many special effects. But the man who plays Otho, Glenn Shadix, said, the set of Beetlejuice was one of the most exciting and fun and hilarious sets that any of us had ever been on. There was a real chemistry between the actors. We all thoroughly enjoyed one another.
No.
As we talk about the movie, we will shout out. I want to, tons of people work on movies. Let's name them and give them the credit. But especially here, where there's so many there's production design and set design and puppetry and makeup, special effects. We'll call out these people as we go. The animated series you didn't know about.
I mean, now that I see it, of course, the eyes of Lydia Dietz are so. There's only eyes like this.
They're iconic. Yeah. Big hit in the late 80s, early 90s. They made a bunch of changes. Most importantly, Beetlejuice is nice this time, and he and Lydia are friends. Watching the movie, does that make sense to you?
Yeah. I feel like if they'd let Beetlejuice stay around long enough, he would have assimilated and been a nice guy.
Yeah.
And just maybe always up to little schemes.
Which was the show.
Beetlejuice.
Exactly like what the dynamic was in this show.
Well, that's where I see it going. I mean, the eternity is a long time.
That's true.
And I love the idea of like you have a place for where you're going after you die, even if that's not really what happens. I'm sure in Lydia's mind, when she dies, she will just join her family the same way she has, and forever and ever, the family they build can just stay in that house. It doesn't really make sense because grandchildren, they won't all fit in this house, but.
No, they won't. And then, how old is the oldest person there? Are they 8,000 years old? And
I guess it just takes one of the kids not wanting to live that way for that to cut it off, because it's your afterlife. It's whatever
like George
works
Carlin's
for you.
Joke about if he could see us now, he's looking down and smiling at us all. And he's like, you ever think about what that would look like? Yeah.
No, that's not at all what I think that joke sounds like, but okay.
That's exactly what it sounds like. Theme park. Beetlejuice was like sort of the mascot for Universal Studios, the Mickey Mouse of Universal Studios in a way. Big stage show at the theme park that closed in 2016. And then Beetlejuice the musical opened in Broadway in 2019. It's now touring the nation.
Who's this Joker playing fucking Beetlejuice? He looks ridiculous.
I don't know.
I don't like his hair.
Sequel. There is a sequel. Beetlejuice 2. I'm sure it'll have a different name. Although I wish it was just called Beetlejuice 2. I missed just the numbered sequels, but
Is this the same person that plays Wednesday in the current show?
That is right. Yeah.
That's smart.
Jenna Ortega. Tim Burton is the series director on the Wednesday show for Netflix. And it's like the first successful thing he's done in 15 years.
Should we watch it?
I'm not watching that shit.
Oh, fuck. Okay. Why not?
I'm just
People
done.
like it.
I'm done with Netflix shows.
If they're good, they can't help it. We can just be done with the bad ones.
I don't think it's good though.
Oh, you don't think Wednesday's good? I don't know. I haven't heard.
I've heard it's bad, but
oh, well, fuck.
I'm sure it's a thing where like it takes 7 episodes to get good, and then you'll get like a tease, and then, ooh, who's that? Is that Morticia Addams in the 8th episode? And then
all right, come on, go on.
Yeah.
Enough with this tease.
Anyway, Burton said principal photography is 99% completed. They got interrupted by the actor strike, but he's like, once the actor strike's over, we only need 2 days and we can finish it. Yeah, this movie's coming out September 2024. Michael Keaton, Winona Ryder, Catherine O'Hara are all back. Jenna Ortega's playing Winona's child, and Danny Elfman's back doing the score. And it seems like this is mostly being done by Tim Burton's Wednesday people. So
okay,
we have that to look forward to. Are you excited about this?
Yes, and like always, our timing is perfect on releasing freaking on topic
only
content.
1 year from now.
Yeah, great. We'll have the 1 year anniversary of this podcast episode.
But it seems like he's been kind of miserable with the movies he's had to make in the past 10 years. But he said about Beetlejuice 2, he said, quote, "I really enjoyed it. I tried to strip everything and go back to the basics of working with good people and actors and puppets. It was kind of like going back to why I liked making movies."
Perfect.
End quote. If that's true, yeah, I'll be excited
Hell
to see
yeah.
it. If it's just a CGI goop fest, no thank you.
It doesn't sound like it will be. Can you please show me who this blonde is on your next? I cannot imagine who this is on your. What, is that a realtor? Oh God, it's Catherine O'Hara, my best friend.
What?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, that's a slide for later.
Oh, okay. Excuse us.
Angelica Houston was playing Delia.
I think that would have been good too, but this is
It's
so
a
much
natural.
better.
Tim Burton said, well, so Angelica Houston had to drop out because she got sick. And then Tim Burton has this quote, "Catherine's so good, maybe too good. She works on levels that people don't even know. I think she scares people because she operates at such high levels."
I totally can fucking see that. Yeah. But also Catherine O'Hara met her husband on this set, who she's still married to this day.
Not Christopher Guest. What am I?
Christopher Walken. No. So, that would have changed the course of history. We might not have had Schitt's Creek. If she hadn't married who she was supposed to marry on the Beetlejuice set.
Yeah, the ramifications.
It's astronomical.
Just think about them. You can't.
I just did. I'm just realizing how stupid my notes are. It says, "Love the model. What kind of spider?" Wow. Those are the things. Why would,
What kind of spider is it? Wait, they just have like a tarantula running loose in their attic?
I mean, are you looking at the same slide as I am?
That's a tarantula, isn't it?
Oh, okay. I thought you meant, what are you talking about, spider?
Tarantula is a spider?
Love, I thought you didn't know of a spider at all.
Of course I know of the spider.
Okay.
I know it's a giant spider, and he's like, "Oh, there's this little guy. What are you doing in my little church?"
Right, not like,
churchy worch. Yeah, no.
That's his house. It's not his church.
That's not a church?
That's his house.
My mistake. Yeah, my notes are just like, wait, what? Wait, so Beetlejuice can do, wait. And now they're, what?
Okay.
I watched this movie twice this week. Once, make our notes in like real time, and then I watch again to make an outline. So the first time I'm confused, and the second time
you're pissed.
I'm tracking, and I'm like tracking the plot beats, and like, oh, okay, so because of this, then this happens, and then because of that, this happens, and now they want to do this. Okay, but literally 25 seconds later, they change their mind. They don't want to do that. There's a lot of ping-ponging in this movie, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Do you remember when we were watching Finding Nemo all the time?
And I know the answer to that would be yes.
Mm-hmm. And you pointed out there is a lot of like resetting of Dory and Marlin. They like each other, but now they don't. Now he's going to leave her behind, and then she finds him again, and they just do that over and over and over again throughout the movie.
Right. It's just like with the Buzz Lightyear. They didn't know what to do with him if he wasn't like a fish out of water, so they just kept finding ways in each movie to make him reset.
All right, we open. We're swooping over a town. What a town this is. What a real town this is. Or is it?
If they've got a real spider problem, if it is.
It's a model town.
It is.
This is a very impressive model. Your note was right. It's a good model.
Thank you.
Did we talk the last time about the discrepancy in the title of the movie and the the title on screen versus the title on the poster and then the name of the character.
I always noticed that it said Beetlejuice or something in the. I don't think we talked about it. No, it's just I was like, okay, maybe it's so obvious that we don't need to, but I have no fucking clue.
All right. Well, first of all, yeah, the movie is, its official title is Beetlejuice, one word.
One word.
But in the opening credits, it's Beetle Space Juice.
Right.
And that like suggests, hey, you audience, what you're going to watch is a bunch of Beetlejuice. And Michael Keaton as Beetle Space Juice. But then on the poster, it's Michael Keaton is Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice.
And in the movie, his name is spelled out on screen over and over again. And it's always spelled Beetlejuice like the star, Betelgeuse.
I'll bet they just did the principal photography. That's a term I recently learned. And realized that spelling would be atrocious. Just for marketing reasons, people if they can't even say the word.
Yeah, that's plausible. I was wondering, it's either that, or they don't care, or the point is you're supposed to be. What is going on in this world? You don't understand.
Okay, so I can buy that these happened for marketing reasons and they happened in stages, because I would assume the shooting of the movie would happen and then the credits would be done and then the marketing, such as the logo and the movie poster. So, well, even the logo might be while the credits are happening as well, actually. So it would make sense that the third correction is that they just take out the space, and that's why the movie poster is different again.
Mm-hmm.
Not for chaos, but like for simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's for SEO because that'd be smart, but that wouldn't have been a thing, at least not then.
Do these things bother you? I'm not saying this makes it a bad movie, but do these things bother you in general?
I always notice the blinking sign in the graveyard being wrong, and I just assumed it was because it was meant to be strange, meant to be old. Like he died so long ago that was the spelling of his name, and now in modern day they've adjusted because that's not how anyone speaks anymore. And this is Barbara and Alan's afterlife, not Beetlejuice's. So they updated it to their understanding.
Okay.
I did a lot of mental gymnastics. It did not bother me. The spacing does now that you've pointed it out.
It's like the movie Seven, where all the posters say SE7EN.
Mm.
Now, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure in the movie itself, it's just the word seven. And that bothers me. But I could totally be wrong, and people are like, you idiot, that's not what.
Again, I think I because we work in marketing and because of all the shit that people will try to just kind of pass off as like, that's always what we've done, like Tolkien and token. Mm-hmm. No, just I mean, especially for a property that's existed for a really long time, or for one that took a really long time to make, and just over the course of like when you start a movie and all that goes into it, and then before you know it, you have a better idea, and then other brains get involved, people whose expertise are for a different purpose, not for artistic stuff, but for like making it easier for Joe Blow to understand. I could see them just being like, fuck it, just take the space out. We'll pretend we won't say anything. We don't have the money to go back and correct the credits or any of that because we've already spent that money. Just move on and just don't even talk about it. People just won't notice. And they really didn't.
The one thing I can't accept is that in the opening credits, it says Michael Keaton as Beetle Space Juice. But in the closing credits, Michael Keaton, Betelgeuse.
Oh, that's rough.
But, I didn't know Beetlejuice was a star until I was in astronomy. When I was in college, in university, and I had an astronomy lab, and some guy was like talking about stars and mentioned Beetlejuice, and I was like, that's a lame joke he just made. He's calling a star Beetlejuice. Moving on, we meet.
I did just real quick. I did tell you my astronomy story in college, right?
Oh.
Which is that I signed up for it because I really loved astrology.
Oh my God, yeah, yeah.
And then I got in there, and then I was like, fuck. And
how long did it take to notice?
Immediately. And I didn't know it was a thing to like drop a class. I didn't know you could and not affect your GPA. Didn't know. Well, no guidance.
No.
There was no Beetlejuice for me to follow in the sky. You know what I'm saying?
If there were, though, tell me about the Maitlands. What's the deal with these Maitlands? We got Gina Davis is playing Barbara.
They are sweetly, adorably, very much in love. They always hold hands. And even when it's like inconvenient to do so or dangerous to do so,
It's a very chaste love.
How so?
Well, Alec Baldwin even says, like, maybe we can try again on this vacation, like to have a baby, to conceive a baby. And it's like the only reason to have sex is to get pregnant.
I don't understand why it's chaste. Oh, because it's not sexual.
Yeah. Well, and they're very, they're squares. And she is dressed. Tell me about her costuming. You're our fashion correspondent. What is the way she dresses? Tell us about her.
All right. What was the year?
88.
Clearly matters that they are in. They even say LL Bean, which LL Bean was cool and in certain parts of it just meant you were in a smaller town probably, but it didn't mean you were a bumpkin. I mean, this is definitely, and they need a huge contrast between her and Delia Deetz. So, I mean, that's a good point. This is just your suburban, like happy but busy house mom, not fashion forward person. This is just a person who wears clothes because you're supposed to during the day.
But it looks very conservative to me, so I'm wrong. It's not supposed to be.
I guess, I mean, I don't think you're wrong, but I don't think there were a ton of other ways to go with it. This is just like your most normie outfit you could wear. We're not supposed to think anything extra about Barbara. She seems correct.
Mm-hmm.
We're supposed to think the extra things about Delia. So Barbara's our baseline. Delia's our extra.
Yeah, and Lydia is rebelling against her sort of yuppie hipster parents, and it would make sense that she would gravitate toward these people who are just the most corny middle America couple you can be.
Well, and herself be wearing very matronly black dresses and her giant brimmed hat. She's almost pilgrim-esque, like, even though she's black and that makes her a little edgy, it's very uncool clothing, or at least what I remember. There's nothing like interesting artistically about this clothes
about Lydia,
about what Lydia wears, except for how she does her hair and how much black she wears.
Mm-hmm.
But the pieces individually aren't particularly stylish.
So she's not a cool kid. We're not supposed to think, okay, she's cool and hip.
No, she's alt kid.
Gotcha. All right. Well, they die in a car accident.
They do.
This seems like if I'd seen this as a kid, I would have been really disturbed by the way they die. Were you?
Oh, I would not pass rickety. I did not ever want to go across any bridge that didn't look like it was made of concrete for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I wouldn't watch the movie Bridges of Madison County. Fuck that.
Does something happen with bridges?
No, it's completely about covered bridges.
Oh, okay.
Specifically bridges that look like that. Oh, it completely freaked me out. And fuck that dog who kills them.
Yeah, that dog sucks.
Oh, just stay on the beam, dog.
Yeah. Car accidents were very upsetting to me as a kid. And it's, if you're a kid, this is the most realistic way somebody in your family is going to die.
100%. Anytime my mom did any traveling, or anytime we even traveled together in the car, I would cry and worry the entire time we were going to get in a car wreck.
Me too.
Yeah. And I was taken to a therapist, and I was told I was going through a scary phase. And
yeah.
I just was an anxious kid. The bottom did drop out. I was just waiting. I guess I knew my family was one real tragedy away from like complete extermination. Like we were always kind of creating little tragedies and dramas in our home. Like if something real happened, hit the button, the red one.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna go nuclear. We're not coming back from this.
Yeah, that would have been the case. And for me, it was my dad drove an 18-wheeler truck, and
there you go.
Went on overnight trips for his work. Driving a truck for thousands of miles. So I was just always like, he's not coming back from this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So feel good, everybody.
One of those feel good episodes.
They are dead, and they come back to their house, and something feels amiss, and they find the handbook for the recently deceased, and then they find out they can't leave. What happens if they leave the house?
They go into a Dali-esque weird yellow sand pit in an abyss that has a sand snake, and when they are in that area, lots of time goes by. The 2 times they go in there, except for the end, thank you, a lot of time passes by. So he's gone for hours when he was only out for like 1 minute whenever Adam goes out the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And then they both go out together, and when they come back in, it's been 3 months.
Yeah, there's some time dilation going on, and that's the function of the script. Is you need to know that that's how time works, because later they do need to jump ahead in time so that the house can get totally transformed.
Right. And we don't have to go through the construction part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But then it doesn't make sense because Barbara goes to get the sandworm to kill Beetlejuice. So she goes outside for as much time as it takes to tame her dragon, and then comes back in only a few minutes later in the house. So
that's a plot hole, ladies and gentlemen.
A bit of a hole.
In the script, it specified this sandworm is right out of Dune. So if you're thinking, isn't this like Dune? It is.
You know who wasn't thinking that? I've never seen Dune. So
sandworms, they're big thing in Dune. I assume this was a reference to the book more than the movie came out in 84. The book was 65. So that's my little fan theory.
Thanks.
They're reading from the handbook for the recently deceased, trying to understand the rules of this world. And you thought it was very notable what Alec Baldwin is reading about the rules. You said you wanted to talk about that?
Yeah, I wrote them down. I was trying to track the rules, but I think there might only be 2 that are really spoken out loud. So only the smart can die.
Only the smart can die?
Yeah. How else are you going to understand the freaking book? You've got to be literate. But this is, again, this situation. Manifestation, all of the circumstances seem to depend on the person dying.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, one of them might be who died, not the other. One of them might have survived, because we could just be experiencing Adam's version of heaven or hell, or neither. You know, I mean, like,
the other's just a projection.
Yeah,
wow.
There's no way to know. So like, it's smart because they knew the movie was chaos. It was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
There's not probably even great explanation for, I mean, in more than half of the questions we have. So
yeah, but there's something. I mean, the idea of an afterlife with rules that are so boring and specific, I love it. I know this isn't the first movie or story to do that.
Okay.
The movie Brazil from 1985 did that a lot, which I haven't seen Brazil. That's a big blind spot. But I know that sort of the bureaucracy, the banality of, you know, of an afterlife, or sort of like a post-apocalyptic situation, that's very funny to me.
I could see you becoming just really complacent, because it's like, okay, I could understand more about this. It's kind of how I felt about when the pandemic started, this like suspended animation thing. It's like, well, I have an excuse not to do anything at all. And if I just sit right here, I mean, I'm not anxious, but at least I'm like in good company. I'm having a reason to just be sitting here. I don't have to have more plans. I don't have to overcomplicate this, at least not today. So I could see, like, I don't want to read more of the book and know I'm supposed to be doing other shit right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. I could see being like, okay, this is death for at least the next 5 years.
And you have so much time, you'll get to it eventually. It also makes sense if you have the entire history of humanity to build an afterlife. Of course, the rules are going to get so complicated because you've had to deal with every situation imaginable, because you had all of history to do it.
It also begs the question, how fucking hard was it to set up a stereo? Like, why every single person in this movie uses the same reference? It's like stereo instructions. Like,
stereos were weird. You had
all the little wires in the back.
Yep.
I remember learning how, you know, the red one and the black one works, but it's just like, that was
there
the
was
only
even
part.
a time red and black one was like a simplification of an even earlier one, and then of course you just get your standard aux cable. Yeah, these kids today, they don't know how good they have it. We didn't have a Bluetooth speaker. Yeah. We didn't.
Right.
The Dietzes enter the picture. We have Delia Catherine O'Hara. MVP of the movie, I'd say. Would you agree, Catherine O'Hara?
Absolutely.
Okay. Jeffrey Jones, MVP of the world.
Just ask his child bride or whatever.
Yes. Hey, Google Jeffrey Jones. Lydia, Winona Ryder, and then Otho, Glenn Shadix. What is Otho's relationship to this family? Because he's always there.
Well, more than just being Lydia's graphic design. Let me start that over. Delia's interior designer. He seems to also be a friend, but he's kind of a frenemy. He seems like a leech. He definitely knows lots of stuff, but I think what he really knows is how to make somebody feel like they're not keeping up with the aesthetics of the time. So I think he's probably always hawking his services to this family. This family's clearly rich, and Delia's clearly like needy for acceptance and for being in vogue and beyond. So, you know, he's there initially because he's going to completely redo their entire house. I have no idea why 3 months later he's still there.
Because you said it. He sees Delia and he's like, bingo.
Yeah.
That's my ticket.
I can keep.
You have a need, I can fill it. You need a seance, I can do that.
I can do that. Right. Exactly. And he reads as gay, but then he's married in a very unsatisfying relationship. I just wondered if that was a nod to, you know, it not being as easy to be out at this time, but it seemed like it would have been fine for someone from, well, fine in general, but then also especially from someone from the art community in New York.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an interesting choice. Was I just reading the stereotypes? And
I think he's playing. I think that actor always plays, sort of fussy.
It reminds me of me. I don't know. Like,
and we always say about you would be best portrayed by a gay man.
yes.
Yeah. These two people, Charles and Delia's relationship to each other, what's going on there?
Well, okay. So again, I couldn't tell if that was. I always thought of her as a stepmom, but there were a couple times where Lydia calls her mom, and the dad refers to her as the mom. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But clearly this is a second wife. They don't ever say what happened to the first. I assume death, which is probably what started Lydia's fascination with death and with her goth phase.
The Beetlejuice stage show apparently opens with the funeral of Lydia's mom.
Okay. All right. Their dynamic is he's probably a slight bit older. He's a square. He's probably in finance or something, or real estate or something very boring. She was okay with being a second wife and with taking on a child, and she was looking to socially climb and get her art out there. So she would need funding for that. So I could see their pairing being one of convenience to both of them, and for socially kind of a this is not a nice comparison. Kind of like Jeffrey Epstein and Galen. One had
Ghislaine.
one Galen, whatever, Ghislaine.
Allegedly.
I don't know. I think she
you
gives
think
him,
that's what they're like?
She gives him access into a more hip community, and he gives her money.
I mean, yeah, he seems to like. She's super into wanting to appear hip, to belong in the art world. He seems like a kind of a business tyrant, but he alludes to his nerves went out, and that's like he had some sort of nervous breakdown.
Right. So he's looking for peace and quiet.
And he's approaching it like some of these business psychos we have now about like how to optimize your relaxation. It reminded me of Succession when Shiv is scheduling time to grieve. And her husband's like, you're scheduling your grief?
But you go ahead.
He'll like go into a room, he'll sit down in a rocking chair and then like rock really
right, like just
really hard. And be, I'm so relaxed. I'm so relaxed.
Oh, I'm gonna look at a bird. Did it. Done. Have you seen Funny Farm? That's another one of my movies.
Nope.
Well, that's another movie of like city folk moving over with the yokels and it being the death of them. And bird watching, issues with the elements, issues with the town, it's all the same stuff, but it's Chevy Chase and it's completely different and awesome. But I'd be interested in revisiting that one.
I'll put it on the ledger.
Please.
He's also just trying to manage her mania. And by mania, I mean she's manic and really into the thing she's into.
Mm-hmm. And then she licks his nose, which is always...
She's so good.
Which is always like... I love it and hate it. Like, but also something I would do. And I think it's just...
Lick a nose?
Just as a weird, funny little thing you only do to the person that is yours. Just like, let me come bite your cheek for no fucking reason. Like, access.
Yep.
A weird reward punishment. Because like now you got a wet nose or a bit cheek. But I mean it as an inconvenience, but also a love token.
It's like when you nice punch.
Okay, it's not exactly that. No. I punch plenty of people.
Sometimes you nice punch. I love that he's reading a magazine called Practical Homeowner.
Well, yeah.
Which does not exist. I looked it up. And
of course.
I love that he opens the magazine and immediately the little subscription card falls out. Remember when that happened, everybody?
Yes. Well, bought plenty of CDs on accident that one.
These people are yuppie snobs.
Eating Cantonese that they can spit stuff out. What are they spitting out?
I don't know, but it's like the joke here is she says, I can't believe we're eating Cantonese and they don't have a Sichuan restaurant. So she's like, the joke here is most Americans only would call it Chinese. And she not only knows different regions of China and their cuisine, but has opinions about like one is one is beneath her. Cantonese is beneath her and expects the Sticks, the random little village they moved to have a Sichuan restaurant.
Right.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
I think that also there's a thing of like, she creates art for snobs, for
Right.
rich people. And there's another point where Charles says like, he talks about a talking Marcel Marceau statue. So it's like, he's like, yeah, these are, I think Tim Burton, he judges these people. These people aren't in art for the right reasons.
Right.
I think he thinks of like, these are the suits at Disney, or these are the suits at the studios that I have to stomach because they pay the bills.
Okay. They're picking apart the wrong thing.
They just,
I mean,
they don't
literally,
have a love. They don't have a love for the thing itself. They want it. They love it for what it signifies about them. And they
right.
don't have any actual appreciation for the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, making a statue that talks out of a mime.
Right. Although I could see that being artsy.
I mean, now that I say it, yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Which, yeah, fuck mimes.
Oh, they are inconvenient.
We meet
Whoa.
Beetlejuice for the first time via a television commercial. He's condemned to the model at this point.
God, I don't know.
That's where he makes the commercial, because he's filming this commercial in the model.
Yeah, but I thought that, wait, haven't they already seen their caseworker, Juno, at this point, the Maitlands?
I don't think so.
Because I thought the first thing they see is an advertisement.
Yeah, they see a piece of paper
paper
advertisement.
And then they go to Juno and they mention it. And she says, do not do that. I think this is the second time that they see him. And, oh, wait, no, the first time we see him, he's reading
a paper.
He, meaning Beetlejuice, is reading the classifieds to see who has died. Mm-hmm. Who is his next victim going to be? So no, I don't think he was already in the model. That'd be very convenient. I think he has a way of like getting into the lives in some small way, and in some kind of convenience way. If they choose to interact with him, they can.
So he sees he's reading the paper. He sees they're dead. So he'll go into their house. But they do have to summon him. They later say his name 3 times, then get sucked into the model, and then they have to dig him out from a grave.
Which is just so fucking bizarre. Why?
That's what I'm saying. So somebody trapped him, or did he trap him? This is just...
I wonder if it's not like his process. Like, well, I need to see how desperate they are. I need them to do, it's like if they put in work and it makes them more committed to whatever it is I say, because they just put in all this work. So it's like, you just did all this work to dig me up. You might as well listen to what I'm saying and not totally dismiss it.
Yeah, that seems a little more, thought out than Beetlejuice seems like he is. A little more professional. It doesn't make any sense.
I've always wondered, like, well, this is horrible salesmanship, but maybe he's weeding them out too. Not everybody's worth his antics.
The Maitlands.
Them. Mm-hmm.
Barbara and Adam. They're trying to haunt the house and scare out the Dietzes, but it's not working. Because they're so up their own butts.
The Dietzes. Yeah,
the Dietzes they don't see the spooky apparitions, but Lydia does.
Oh, that was the rule I wrote down. That not that they can't, but that the living often won't.
That they won't. They often won't.
No, I think that's a very interesting.
No, I know. It's funny.
It's not funny. I don't think it's funny. I think it's deep.
It's deep and funny.
I think that the living are so fearful of death that they will not acknowledge, even if it's right in front of them, that things can die. She saw them through her camera in the attic. So she went up to the attic to investigate. And then here's rummaging.
They, the Dietzes, the Maitlands, and then they think we need some professional help. And the handbook says if you need professional help, draw a door. So they do. And it takes them into the office. Or what do you call this whole realm?
Well, Tim Burton said this is supposed to be the DMV of the afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
The whole place. The whole thing's supposed to be like a city building. Disorganized, hard to maneuver, find what you need to find, and nobody likes to work there.
A lot of red tape, a lot of random arbitrary rules, like you have to spend first 125 years on Earth in that house, and then you move on.
To what?
I don't know, but during that time, you only get 3 Class 1 D90 intercessions with Juno. Who's Juno? Your caseworker.
Well,
God.
I have a feeling she's annoyed. I always thought she was like needlessly annoyed, but it's like, now that we build websites, right? We make brochures. It's like, I did all the work. I made that handbook. We add to it all the time. No one ever bothers to read it. And you're asking questions you should know the answers to. Now I'm going to treat you like a piece of shit.
I answered the questions already. Yeah, it's the paradox of the longer an explanation is you make for somebody, the less likely they're going to read it.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So the afterlife, nightmare of bureaucracy. In terms of production design, which was done by Bo Welsh, this is basically straight out of Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and other such German expressionist silent movies that Tim Burton was obsessed with.
And that's what Tim Burton said. This is the other piece I didn't remember. It's supposed to be mixed with it's a DMV done in German and expression.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then he went crazy with the German expressionism in Batman and Batman Returns for Gotham City.
Okay.
Which was his innovation on Gotham City. It had always been like a weird film noir, like simultaneously throwback and futuristic film noir world. And then he tossed in the German expressionism.
Okay.
Art decoration by Tom Duffield, set decoration by Catherine Mann. This movie, it looks great because of the sets and the costumes and everything.
Yes, we're a little out of order. Right.
This isn't out of order. This is.
No, I mean that you've already said they tried to scare them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they haven't. They don't think to scare.
No, they did the thing in the closet.
Oh, you're right, with the severed head and stuff.
Yeah, honey, this isn't working out.
Oh, right. Okay, gotcha.
But this is why
You're right.
Why it's annoying, because they keep going okay, no, we'll try to scare them. This isn't working. We have to call Beetlejuice. No, we'll try to scare them. No, we'll call Beetlejuice. No, we'll just try to scare them. There's a lot of that. I thought that, I guess we basically get to the point where Lydia finally makes contact with them.
Mm-hmm.
And she's, she says, I myself am strange and unusual. And that's why she's able to see them.
And she's also faced death with her mom.
That's true.
She
not mentioned, but.
Right. But I mean, that makes sense. If someone's already confronted of it and already kind of had the worst thing possible happen to them, they're less likely to look away.
And then this interaction between Lydia and the Maitlands, where she goes up into the attic with them and talks with them for a little bit. And then she's like, oh, my parents are coming. Gotta go. That's the only scene they have before the end of the movie together.
That can't be.
It is. It's the only, and I know the movie's trying to get to a place of found families, as our kid pointed out, and sort of the purpose of, it's not about people having to be like each other. They just have to like each other.
Right.
The Maitlands are the most square people you can be, but they like Lydia, and Lydia likes them, whereas her stepmom is this weird hipster, but she doesn't like her stepmom.
She's not warm.
It would work better if we just invested a little more time in them spending time with each other and showing how much they care about each other. They come back out of the afterlife and they're like, what happened to our house? It's been 3 months. And the house, they first don't realize they're in their house because it looks like they're still in the afterlife.
Because the house has been redecorated.
And redecorated so weird that it's like converged in appearance with the weird afterlife. Okay, well, they're going to have a dinner party. And this is like, I like that this is like the most old-fashioned stock sitcom plot. Like, there's ghosts in the house and they're going to cause mischief, but we have impressive people coming over for dinner.
I can't think about this right now. I'm preparing a chicken. Right. Like, just get out of here. The most stressful thing is actually not the afterlife. It is Maxie, who might invest in this property.
Yeah, because Charles is like, instead of relaxing, he's like, ooh, I can gentrify this neighborhood and make some money.
Imagine making that neighborhood more white. They're going to
upscale restaurants and stuff.
Well, they're going to turn it into an amusement park. It's almost like or I guess he doesn't have that idea yet, right? They go full amusement park once they realize there's ghosts. Yeah, I don't exactly understand what he thinks, what potentially sees in this random farm town.
This plot.
Yeah.
Ugh. All right, so they got to do something. So they're gonna they're going to call on Beetlejuice. They get sucked into the model. They have to dig for Beetlejuice, and they find him, and we finally meet him. And yeah, we meet Michael Keaton. And what's he like?
He is a sex predator, and he makes it clear when he's looking at the classifieds that he thinks Barbara's hot, and that's he wants nothing else but to like get some action. So he's always doing things in front of Adam, but then using his other hand to assault fucking Barbara. And I hate how funny it is.
But Beetlejuice, his antics, they're a little too extreme for these guys. So they decide they're not going to use him. Because Gina Davis says, I'm not going to expose that little girl down there to that pervert. So.
Well, so maybe they're not extreme. Maybe she can see that he doesn't actually, his intention isn't to help anybody. It's to help himself.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So they're not going to help him. They get an idea. We'll haunt them ourselves. We'll do the thing that we've been doing the whole movie, but this time it'll work.
This time there will be shrimp cocktail and calypso music.
Yes. So we have the dinner party scene where they all sing Deo.
My favorite scene.
Your favorite scene, you say?
I love this scene. Yes.
It's good. I hate this kind of shit, but
I know you do.
I like it.
But at least it's a demon possession or some sort of possession. And they all talk about it after, right? It's not like it just happened and then it's like, well, that was normal. But they have conversation about how abnormal it was.
It's quirky. They're not being quirky to be quirky. They're not doing anything by
And all of
choice.
them are like horrified the way you would be if your body just started dancing.
Yes, and they play it like that. They're both amused and horrified.
Right.
And I just like these actors are working really hard.
Oh boy, are they.
And I also like that like this isn't teased at all. It comes out of nowhere. You don't actually, other than Gina Davis saying like, I've got an idea. And then a lot of time passes and then this happens. There's no like, they're not cutting away to the Maitlands to show them doing this.
Boy, would that make it bad. Like them, like they're pulling string. And in fact, they can't even quite explain how the Maitlands would even have the ability to do this. But Tim Burton almost didn't keep the scene in because he thought it wasn't funny enough. But it's like, if you ask anybody who loves this movie,
it's the scene.
This is, if not the most iconic one of them.
In my memory, I would have said Beetlejuice does this.
Yeah.
That's him doing this.
Mm-hmm. He's the one that can do elaborate things.
Like you said, they like this. They see a business opportunity. Come to our house and enjoy getting possessed by ghosts. And they keep wanting the Maitlands to just come out and talk to them, but they won't.
But like how also so focused in their own little bubble, like how this wouldn't become a scene of just millions of religious people like trying to shut it down and make it to where people can't visit it because it's clearly demon possession. Like this would not work as a freaking amusement area. It'd be shut down immediately or bombed or something.
It'd be bombed. The health inspector would have something. Yeah.
The Hillsborough Baptist folks would be like, no. I mean, it's a square city. Just them alone. Well, they wouldn't have any power.
No, that's true. I mean, hey, in my hometown of Mandeville, Louisiana, last weekend there was a 3-day convention of the paranormal. So it was, like a ghost and spooky haunted conference. And it's all in good fun, but they have like people coming and talking about how they're haunted and that kind of bullshit. But yeah, local churchy people had to protest it and, contact the sponsors and say, you're inviting Satan into our beloved town.
Right. I mean, that is such a small scale thing. This is actual, anyone that pays enough money can come in here and get possessed by a demon and do the calypso. And then walk home. They'll be fired, then leave.
It is funny. It's like the King Kong thing. Like, we discovered King Kong, a giant gorilla.
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to do? Let's put him on Broadway.
Right. Not what
scientific marvels.
Right.
Yeah.
And what does this mean for the rest of wildlife? Are we going to be overrun by animals because they're allowed to get this big now?
The Dietzes want the Maitlands to come out and play, but they won't. They won't do it. So.
All right.
It's like, that's the dilemma.
But for some reason now Beetlejuice can show up on his own.
I wrote this down too. Because then he comes out as a worm. So who makes him come out
He's
right
a
here?
Snake.
A snake, whatever. And a very good looking puppet.
Well, I think he makes a comment like, clearly he needs to take this into his own hands. Like he uses this is Barbara and Adam's attempt at scaring them away. What it does is thrills them. So then he says something like, "Let me show you how it's done," or whatever. And so then he just kind of goes wild. But I guess he's already been released because they said the name 3 times. I don't understand.
They said the name 3 times and then went into his model.
I know that. And said it 3 times again and came out. But I'm wondering if it only takes 3 times for him to have access. Whatever.
Because then Barbara runs out and intervenes because now Beetlejuice is targeting Lydia. It's like, don't touch my little girl. Beetlejuice. And he goes back. Now Beetlejuice is fixated on Lydia. He's obsessed with her. And then we go back for another meeting with Juno, and it seems like maybe she's pulling everybody's strings.
How?
In the stage show, and I guess I got poisoned by this, she turns out to be the villain of the whole thing.
Oh, I really
And she's Beetlejuice's mom. And the stage show ends with Beetlejuice riding the sandworm to eat her.
Okay.
To save Lydia. I just thought that, you know, she basically says like, okay, you guys have to go get all the proof that life after death exists. You have to go get it back because they stole the handbook for the recently deceased and they have photos of you in sheets. So our whole operation is threatened. Juno's played by Sylvia Sidney. Let's just mention that. She's great.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Lydia is writing a suicide note. She's going to kill herself. Why is she going to kill herself?
Well, because she was hoping to be able to at least help Barbara and Adam, and instead her parents took this and perverted it as well. Is now making them. She realizes or thinks that she cannot. She just will never see eye to eye with her mom and her stepdad. No, her dad and stepmom, and therefore needs to die so she can be with Barbara and Adam or with her mom or whoever. She feels like anyone that would understand her is already dead.
Okay. The Maitlands, they get transformed into monsters, but then quickly decide we don't want to be monsters.
They don't they transform themselves to show what they've got, to show they know how to look spooky in the afterlife.
They get transformed by themselves. Sorry.
I'm just saying, no one like put them under. They're in complete control of making their faces look like that.
Mm-hmm.
His nose is in her giant mouth.
Again, we've seen her interact with Lydia for one scene.
It works for me.
It works for me too.
Can I just say about the puppets?
But I feel dumb for it working. Yes.
Can you call those puppets? What's happening right there? I guess they're not being puppeted. But this plus also the head of Beetlejuice on the snake, something that's so effective about these, and it's why they're gross, is how they make wet things look wet.
Mm-hmm.
The shininess on the tongue, the shininess around Beetlejuice's gums and teeth. It's like, that
Wetness
I can feel.
Is hard to computer animate. But hey, you can just wet a real object and film it.
Well, these things aren't actually wet, though. They're paint. There's a something they painted on to make it glisten like that.
Well, glistening. You can glisten an object and film it.
Reflection is very hard in animation. Reflection and anything with a.
Guarantee the Beetlejuice sequel is going to look 10 times worse than this.
Oh, you don't think they're going to continue using practical stuff?
I think I always say that and they never do it.
But Tim Burton said he's going back to his basics.
I know he said that.
Well, he's down with him a lot.
He made Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah. Damn it. That would have been
fault.
So much more charming with just puppet faces.
Yes, it is. You know what? It is Tim Burton's. If you want to hate Tim Burton, that's the reason is he made Alice in Wonderland. It's the worst movie I've ever seen. And it was such a big hit. And it's why The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast and every goddamn Disney movie gets a live action remake.
Okay. I'm mad.
Thank you.
Okay.
So they have the seance conducted by Otho because he's a practitioner of the dark arts.
Naturally.
But
paranormal, whatever.
But he's not that good at it and he loses control.
Wait. I'd say the fact that he was able to conjure them out of thin air is pretty good start.
That's impressive. It's a good start, but he doesn't have the follow through.
He's
and
just
Charles is like, stop it. And he's like, I can't, Charles. I can't do it.
Just reading a book.
This is the most disturbing thing in the movie because it gets Barbara and Adam. Suddenly they're a bride and groom, but they're aging and they're turning into weird skeleton people.
They're killing the dead. They're double killing.
Yeah, they mentioned there's like another realm where you can die if you're dead and you go there.
Right, lost souls.
A void. Yeah, so that's where they're gonna go.
Ursula's garden. You can die a worse death than the death.
You like your jaw is falling off. Your parts are falling off. They're not
Right.
I
And
don't
you're
belong to me anymore.
still an animated object. You still live in its brain, but you're being controlled by something else.
Mm-hmm.
Even more powerless than you were in the original Afterlife.
Yeah. So finally it's time. We're going to finally see what happens when you summon Beetlejuice. Oh my God. Are we prepared?
We are?
We're not prepared.
Okay.
Is this the first time we see Beetlejuice in his striped costume?
God, is it? Yeah. And it's the costume.
It is. Costumes by Aggie Rogers.
Good job, Aggie.
But so like what happens when he gets unleashed?
I don't
Because it's Lydia who says Beetlejuice 3 times and then he comes.
But what is she trying to prevent?
She's trying to stop the seance.
Right. She just needs another dead person who might know how to do something. And she's right. For some reason, they go back to themselves. I don't understand it. I didn't even try to track it. I am at a disadvantage for having seen it so many times. I completely just fill in the blank.
I went insane doing this.
Yeah.
Because of this happens. Because of that, this happens.
And
Yeah.
why is he a carousel? Why is he got crazy squid hands? I mean, it's all very cool.
Yeah, he comes out of the table with the mobile on his head, and he has the little spiral arms that unfold. And I wrote down, this is like Pixar teasing its future movies, because this is Tim Burton saying, this is what I'm doing next, because he has bad ears, like Batman.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
He has the umbrella carousel, or the umbrella mobile thing, and then his arms open up like the mountain in Nightmare.
Well, I mean, just in general, Tim Burton's very infatuated with swirls. This whole time I thought this like fly thing was a decoration on your PowerPoint. Now I'm realizing there's just a dead fly attached to your computer monitor.
Where?
It's like, what an interesting little decoration you decided to do that's Beetlejuice-esque. I mean, where?
And they're going back and forth. They like it? No, they don't like it. Oh no, it's scary. And
well, because that's what they want, right? They want an attraction that's got crazy shit. And they're like, yeah, do that kind of crazy shit.
But I didn't want this.
Oh, wait, it's the kind of crazy shit well, it's the Natural Museum or History of Greed or whatever he just said. So it's like, look, and that's how he convinces the Dietzes that they don't actually, this is the logical conclusion for the lifestyle you're living. Is this what you want?
What is this journey? You mentioned that the Dietzes seem to like be reformed here.
They are reformed. They stay in the house. The house goes back to looking like it did. Delia becomes inspired again and starts creating art inspired by Beetlejuice. The dad finally has his country rustic home, but they're kind of separate. And the new mom and dad are really the Maitlands for Lydia.
Mm-hmm. They're
all content. Delia
hugs her. She now wants to save her daughter, even though she doesn't like her. I guess I was hoping for let's see more warmth. As a step parent, I like positive step parent representation.
This was far too soon for such things,
I suppose. So Beetlejuice is going to marry Lydia, and this is the big climax of the movie. How are we going to stop the wedding from happening?
Sandworm.
Well, first they try to say his name 3 times. I imagine this drives every child watching the movie insane because people just won't say his name. He'll like.
Wait, does the same person have to say it 3 times? Is this why Jinx was created? Because kids wanted the power back?
And it needs to be a 1-syllable word, very easy to get out.
Right.
Yeah, because one person will say it and be like, oh, don't say that. And then, knock them away, and then they'll just not say it again.
That implies that more than one person could say, like 3 people can say it one time and it'll do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't know.
Well, yeah, it must be because he stops. One person says that he stops them. The other person says that he stops them.
So it needs the whole word didn't come out. Is what you're saying.
It doesn't have to be the same person saying it.
Got it. Well, wait. You're going to stop the person whether they get it out of their mouth 1 time or 2 times, because if they get it once, they're, a third of the way there.
I guess.
It's fine. This is stupid.
Yeah, it's not even how they stop him. They stop him by eating him by having a sandworm eat him. And we're all good.
Saying his name 3 times seems to just be a minor inconvenience. It's like putting him in his room and then he just comes out the room. And he's like, I don't want to be up there.
Yeah. But that's it. Now we jump ahead in time, and Lydia, you said she's no longer, she's still a goth. She is not. She is now being a normal person.
Excuse you. I would invite you to please go look at the other girls that come out of that school that she came out of. None of them have this.
She's a little more eccentric.
She has a black sweater instead of a blue one. She has a crazy black petticoat thing underneath. She's got all black stockings and black shoes, and she still has her weird bangs. Yeah, she's supposed to have assimilated a bit, but she's still her. Eat shit. She's not a normie.
I'd like to hear what people think about this. I mean,
Great.
yes, she's still got it a little bit, but she's mostly assimilated.
Well, good for her. She got her sillies out.
I'm not casting judgment on the lady. I'm
You're
saying
just on me.
no, I'm just saying why does she have to act like a why does she have to fit in now?
I don't think dancing with dead football players is that much of like a trend. So
Not
I'd say
that.
she's not fitting in.
No, but
Maybe,
at school,
okay, so she was always trying to signal her otherness. Now she lives at a house with dead people. She already has proven it to herself that she's another, that she no longer needs to like signal. Because, I mean, most of the reason we dress the way we do is because we're trying to prove something to our own selves. She lives and dances with dead people. She just
so
looks
now she can be
different now.
normal.
Yeah.
All right. And here's my final question. She gets an A and a C, and her reward is please let me dance.
Oh, fuck yeah. And float. Well, they do
I
it.
mean, the floating's fun.
They're using their special dead people powers to make her float. I'll bet they don't want to do that a lot because, tumors.
It seems like doesn't seem like that great a reward.
Please
do it.
It's a reward to
Please.
me. I enjoy it.
I am allergic to endings like this.
Yes, you are.
I hate dance numbers to end a movie. This is okay. I still think the football players coming back is a little Mad Libsy, but at least they exist in the reality of this film. But that's that.
All right.
So
Soup to nuts.
final thoughts. We said Catherine O'Hara is the MVP of the movie. She's our favorite.
Right, well, and this movie also gave me a lifelong love for Winona Ryder. So she's doing something good too. And Gina Davis, she could do no wrong. There's nothing I don't love her in. Alec Baldwin,
What's your star rating?
Well, fuck. I almost said 4, but I'm sure that's not right.
Why not 4? If you love it.
I do love it.
If you love it, it should be 4.5 at least.
Okay, then 4.
So you don't love it.
Quit analyzing me. I haven't given anything a 4 before. Or yeah, I have. I don't remember. This is your thing.
I think of 4.5 and 5 as I love. 4 is I think this is very good. I have some, but I don't love it.
This is not an interesting conversation.
Okay.
You convincing me to change it to a 4.5.
I'm not convincing you. I'm trying to explain my criteria.
Yeah, well, I'm going with mine. Eat shit.
All right, I give it 3. It's more appreciation. I appreciate it. I like it more than the first time I saw it.
Good.
I think that
I think you'll find the more you watch it, the more that starts to happen.
it's more like I like all the people who made this, and I'm glad they had a nice time.
Yeah. See?
What they actually did, I'm not crazy about. And I just compare it to other Tim Burton movies. Like, this is probably the Tim Burton movie for a lot of people. But for me, I prefer other movies of his.
Edward Scissorhands.
Well, if you must know, I have my
I really
rankings.
must not. Oh, okay. Well.
Yeah, Beetlejuice comes up at number 9.
I haven't seen Sleepy Hollow in a long time. I don't remember liking
Sleepy
it.
Hollow is really good.
Oh. It's before fucking Batman on your list?
I've never loved his Batman movie. I love things about it. I've loved things about it, but it doesn't totally connect. Batman Returns I have at number 1, Ed Wood number 2, Edward Scissorhands, Sleepy Hollow, Batman, Sweeney Todd, Pee-wee, Mars Attacks, Beetlejuice, Big Fish, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Planet of the Apes. I like all of those movies. Yes, even Planet of the Apes. I'm the only person in the world who likes Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes, and I think we might do an episode about it.
Okay.
After that, Big Eyes, Dumbo, Dark Shadows, Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, and Alice in Wonderland.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's good.
I'm glad we revisited
Me too.
Beetlejuice. It was fun. Spooky. Get us in the Halloween spirit. And hey, stick with us all month of October for all of our spooks and ghouls and frights and brights.
Okay.
You have anything to add?
No, I don't. Load-bearing screams. What a scream.
Yes. Hey,
Beetlejuice,
please.
Beetlejuice. Oh, so
Okay,
plug, you
plugs,
fucking plug.
Plugs. Hey, please follow us on Twitter. I'm sorry, follow us on X at Load Bearing Pod. Lacey is making very funny short videos
Yes,
on
I am.
YouTube. So youtube.com/loadbearingbeamspod. Is that it?
I don't remember, but just look for our shorts. Load Bearing Beams podcast
Just search
shorts.
for Load Bearing
You do
Beams.
have to type in podcast. Load Bearing Beams will just find you a lot of stuff on how to like fix your house.
If you're on a computer, open a web browser and
Open
type
it up.
in
www.
loadbearingbeams.com/YouTube. That'll redirect you.
Oh, all right. Thank you.
Yes.
My computer whiz.
You also started a TikTok for us.
I did. I think I'm doing it right.
Go do that.
Have a look at the talk.
The music on Load Bearing Beams is by my band, Rural Route 9. Me and Wade Hemel made the theme song. And hey, TJ Barons recorded us and engineered it. Shout out to him. I haven't mentioned him. But if you want to listen to more of our music, it's on Spotify. Rural Route 9. Rural. You might take Rural Route 9 to get to the house that Beetlejuice is in.
Why are you still talking? I love you. Okay. Bye.
3, 4. Everybody, love bearing beams, love bearing beams, love